Donkey Jaw Projects.
What is up, y'all? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today is day 6 of the Art Sound Off. And today the question is, what are the most useful constraints on your project? And I don't know if I'm gonna exactly answer this question because I'm gonna talk about constraints. But the most useful, it varies on every single project, and the fact that constraints are useful is a huge takeaway and helpful thing. I've talked about this a lot before in different various videos, podcasts and whatnot, but basically constraints are a great way of learning and getting better and making a project doable. making a project, not overwhelming, because the overwhelmingness of any project, small or big, tends to always become an issue. Part of it is because I may overcommit to too many projects or something like that. And then another part of it is, and I remember back in high school, years ago, back in high school, that, sometimes there'd be like a school project and, like just a book report. But, there'd be times where like the teacher would be like, okay, this time you get to pick whatever topic you want to choose and do like a book report or whatever on it, or an essay or whatever it is they would ask. And it was those times where I was most inspired, and those times where I sometimes didn't do very well because I get too excited about projects, and it starts with a small, cool idea that seems doable, but then it expands into more and more and more. And I remember, like, even thinking of like mini comics. I remember the first time I did my mini comic for the Mini Comics Dump Truck for Art and Story. That was the first comic I ever like officially like did and finished. And even then I had a bunch of different ideas. What I ended up going with was kind of this idea I've been playing around with in my head for maybe all my life. I don't know, at least since I got into hip hop in high school. But there were so many different ideas, and every idea would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and there was a time constraint, so I was kind of forced to make something happen. And then eventually I just said, let me just put some rules to this, or else I'm not going to be able to accomplish this. And that's my goal, to accomplish this. For more than anything, I just wanted to get a bunch of cool mini comics in the mail, and if I wasn't able to send some out, then I wouldn't be able to get some. I mean, that's not the most important thing, but probably the most important thing is like finishing my first comic. That's a big deal. So, but I remember, that was kind of when I learned about constraints more than any other time. And that first one, I was like, okay, I love like superhero comics and stuff like that, so I want there to be a lot of action. I want there to be like a fight scene, and I want to do cool things with a character with powers. So I did that, and I was like, but the only thing is, there's a lot I don't know how to draw, so I'm gonna make it happen in one place, and it's gonna only involve 2 characters. Simple enough, right? Now all I have to do is have those 2 character designs and a simple, place, which was like an abandoned subway station, like underground. And I'm just gonna have them somehow meet up and kind of have like a fight, and end it, with somebody having kind of finishing the fight or whatever. And there's I tried to inject some story into that made it interesting. Like, these people have met before and there's a history, and, it very simple, but it was enough to hint at something and make me do 2 other mini comics that kind of stemmed from that. And eventually I probably will make it into like a full, like, actual comic. So anyways, like an ongoing type of thing. So that was my first one. Like, the constraint was one place. It takes place in one place, and it has 2 characters, and made it doable. The second one I did was what did I do? I like added some things. I'm trying to think of that story specifically. Because I have 3 of them, and now it's funny because it was so much easier to remember before, but I guess there's been some time between. So the second one was either Monster Munch Mystery or Hiding in the Light. So Hiding in the Light was the third one. Okay, Monster Munch Mystery. So what I did with Monster Munch Mystery was I made it take place in 2 different places. So I added a place, having to draw a little bit more in the backgrounds and stuff. More complicated. One of the places was a comic shop, and the other was a house. So those are a little bit more complicated. And then, then I added probably like 3 or 4 characters. So that was cool and interesting how I was able to add to that world. And it gave me, it was like, okay, I'd already done bitten off a little bit, now I'm biting off a little bit more, but the constraints are still there. I'm not going any further than that. And it worked out, and I made my thing. The third one, what did I do? I expanded more. Trying to think of how that went. That one was I just kind of wrote a story. I think I was trying to develop like the relationships, like, and personalities of the characters, and I don't know how well I did of that. I'm still learning how to do that kind of thing. But I wanted, like, up until that now, like, basically my main character Glyph was loosely based on the similar attitude as like Spider-Man. Very simple and obvious. I mean, it wasn't obvious if you read it. It might not be obvious. Basically just the whole banter, like fun sort of banter while you're fighting. That was kind of the gist of it. But I don't know. So each comic, and I since then I've done other like little mini comic projects, or actually I should say like anthology stuff, and I'm building up more and more. Now I'm more comfortable with having different settings. Still working on it, but now I'm learning things like perspective, how to put characters in perspective, and and just having those constraints really helps a whole lot. So I'm trying to think of like what are the constraints on my projects now. Like, that's kind of what this whole 12 stories thing is. It's meant, this whole point of this whole kind of one-man anthology thing I'm doing is that I learn how to write stories. Good stories of all, and I'm trying all different genres. I'm trying horror, I'm trying sci-fi, I'm trying murder, well, maybe not murder, I don't think there's murder in it, but like mystery stuff, just playing around with different genres, slice of life, things like that. The first one, Lizard Brain, is it's kind of a kind of fun take on like old like horror movies, but with like a lesson, kind of, it's almost like a kid's lesson type of thing, almost like a Goonies type of thing or whatever, but my own thing with kids in school and stuff. And it's about bullying, so it's kind of a simple premise, probably not super sophisticated when it finally is done and you read it, but it's helping me to learn how to come up with a theme and tell a story surrounded around a theme. and that's probably what I'm going to be working on a lot with this anthology. I really just want to hone my craft in just the drawing and the art aspect of comics, but also especially in the story aspect of comics. That's why there are all these little short stories, and it's going to help me. It's already helping me. And I also, for the Life in Space anthology that we're working on for the 100 Days of Making Comics community, it's pretty much all done. Like, my comic's done, everybody's comic's done. It's all formatted and ready. We're just working on the Kickstarter now, and that's going to launch within the next, I don't know, it's going to launch soon. I don't want to say when, because we don't have a definite date or anything. But that being said, that was my chance. With the anthology that I'm working on, it doesn't, there's certain places where it's kind of hard to go because it's a little bit more based in in reality a little bit. I mean, even though I am putting some fantastic elements in some of the stories, but this one, there's not really an opportunity for me to do a space opera type of thing, with kind of Star Wars inspired and stuff, and whatever other space things that are cool, that I enjoy. So I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity for me to kind of play around in that. So that's what the story I did, and it's kind of this, there's a twist at the end, and I was able to create kind of something that was even further out, where I'm creating creatures more, and I don't know. So at this point, it's just the fact that it was a theme on space, I guess, is a constraint. And yeah, I don't know, that's I don't know if I have a takeaway or anything with this, but that just kind of describes some of the ways I've used constraints to help me finish projects, to help me learn along the way, and I definitely have to attribute learning about constraints and how, I mean, I kind of knew inherently a little bit, but hearing it said on Art and Story podcast with Jersey and stuff, I definitely have to credit them for helping me to realize that's a tool I should use. And I'm just going to continue to do different things like that throughout projects. I'm finding that I'm definitely going to need constraints with coloring, because I've been dipping my hand a little bit more into digitally coloring pieces, and that's really hard, and I wish I didn't have to do it myself. I wish I could hire somebody who knew how to do it better, but in that aspect, picking a color scheme is a constraint, but it makes pieces look so much better if you do that than if you just kind of use every color and just kind of go with that. It kind of doesn't look so good. So when it comes to coloring, constraints are huge. That actually makes everything look so much better. So that's, I guess, what I'm thinking about as far as now with constraints. But yeah, that's about it, guys. I guess I do under 15 minutes is kind of my thing. So, but hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know what your constraints are, what if limitations help you. And I'll talk to you on the next Art Sound Off. Peace out.